Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, where I have just watched Manchester United beat Luton Town 2-1 in a very weird, chaotic, uncontrolled game of football. A little bit similar to last week, and I think this week there's two stats which really sum up the game very, very nicely. Luton Town had the most shots they have ever had in a Premier League game, yet Manchester United still had the higher expected goals. That really tells part of the story, what happened in this football match. Of course, we are going to tell you the rest of it as well, though, as we dive into the tactics. And we're going to start off with Manchester United's plan in possession, because some people will look at this performance and the way that the game went and say that Ten Hag doesn't have a plan and things like that. But I don't think that is true. I think we saw a really clear game plan in this football match, literally from minute one, and it looked something like this. United goal kicks. Onana starting with the ball at the back, looking to play out from the back, you would expect. But it isn't the case. Now, Luton pressed incredibly high up the pitch. Ogbene on the right-hand side, pushing all the way forward onto Luke Shaw. Doughty on the left, all the way up onto Dalot. Chong would then fill into midfield. They're pressing with a front two, putting pressure on us in these areas. They're then man-for-man in midfield, and also man-to-man at the back. This is a high-pressing system. They're looking to try and win the ball back incredibly high up the pitch. That is the way that Luton are approaching this game. And what United do is to try and counter this. They bring a lot of players really deep. So that will be Harry Maguire dropping deep. That will be Varane dropping deep. Dalot sometimes. Luke Shaw, Casemiro, etc, etc. The plan being, we're trying to drag these players onto us, these Luton players onto us, towards our area. And then, as you can see with this Onana pass map, the plan is to then go long and go over the press. Because what we can see is that if we do go over the press, if we do go long, we're now man for man at the back. And we saw that with the first goal. Granted, there was an error by the Luton player. But we can see that the man-to-man nature of the play. Luton incredibly high up the pitch. United just booting it long on that occasion with the clearance. But we can see that United were 3 versus 3 up against those Luton defenders. And for the first 10 minutes of the game, it looked like it could work. It looked like it was going to be a chaotic game. But it looked like we could get, Rashford isolated against Mengi, Garnacho against Bell, Højlund against Osho. We could get into these areas. We could go 1 versus 1 against the Luton defenders, and create chances and be an attacking threat. And we absolutely saw that in this game. We saw that with the expected goals. We even saw it in the second half. That United could be threatening. Højlund perhaps could have finished the game. Rashford perhaps could have finished the game, and Garnacho as well. United should have scored more goals in the second half. However, I also felt that what we saw was the real negative of this. And that comes by looking at our central midfielders and the stats. Because what we saw was a game where largely we just went incredibly direct, very quick. Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes in particular, looking to get the ball forward very, very quickly. Now again, this isn't due to a lack of game plan. The game plan is very, very clear. It is to be transitional, to draw Luton onto us into these areas, and then to play quickly, to move the ball forward and try and hurt them. So the game plan is clear. The execution, though, is just horrible. And it's one of those attacking strategies where you've got to get it right, if not it's going to go horribly wrong. Now that might sound obvious, so let me just explain that a little bit. If you're going to play an approach where you constantly pump the ball forward, you've got to get those passes right. Because if you don't, you are just constantly giving Luton the ball back. You see what I'm saying? It's one of those approaches where if you are choosing to be direct, you're choosing to get the ball forward a lot. If you don't complete those long passes, which are high-risk passes, they're not easy to complete, you're just giving Luton the ball back. And I think this game, really captured that very well. United had a massive attacking threat. Højlund played very, very well. I thought Højlund was incredible. First half in particular, his hold-up play, his ability to get the ball down and bring in someone like Bruno Fernandes, play a 1-2, spin, move the ball forward, things like that. He was absolutely phenomenal. But what we also saw was whilst United could create, it also led to a lot of giving the ball away. The only player which was really different to that was Kobbie Mainoo. The one player who could get the ball on the floor, show technical ability, show calm and composure in hectic moments. And by the way, what a performance. Incredible. For me, on the ball, perhaps his best performance so far. And it won't get spoken about because he didn't get goals, assists, or a crazy amount of passes. But his technical ability, his composure and temperament in the most chaotic environment I've seen of a football match was just incredible. Watch the performance back, watch Kobbie Mainoo. Wow. Unbelievable player. And he was absolutely brilliant. But the problem still remained for the rest of the side. It's just too direct. It is too quick, too forward. Because what happened was United moved the ball forward quickly. Sometimes we created chances, but a lot of the time we lost the ball. We didn't make the ball stick. Our pass selection was really poor. Particularly Bruno Fernandes. His creativity in the final third, completely off it. I don't care about what the stats say. Completely off it with his creativity in the final third. And this meant that Luton could get a foot on the ball. Now, the problem here in terms of if you're looking for the long-term future of the club and under Erik ten Hag, tactically how we can set up moving forward. The problem here is that Luton looked in a much more sustainable approach, because what did Luton try to do? They tried to play the ball out from the back, they played through the press, they created overloads in the final third, they sustained pressure, and they counter-pressed well. All of these things, which United didn't do. So, Luton get the ball, and they look to play out from the back. Kaminsky will go to Osho, for example. Now, realistically, in terms of the actual structure of the two sides, on paper, United are set up to be able to press high in this game and win the ball back, because we can see that naturally our 4-3-3 shape actually shapes up to press Luton. But we didn't see that in this game. Instead, what we saw was Marcus Rashford and Garnacho being incredibly passive, and this was, of course, tactical instruction. It's quite evident when both wingers are doing it. This meant that Luton could easily play to one of the wider centre-backs. Now, because the wingers for United are incredibly passive, it means that Luton have the overload in this phase, because they've got the back three, but also the two central midfielders, essentially against our two central midfielders and Højlund, so they've got the overload. It's very easy to move the ball forward. But the problem here also is that our wingers are also passive in terms of tracking back. So Garnacho is in these positions, and Rashford's in these positions, because basically they're waiting to try and nick the ball and counter-attack and be transitional once again and be threatening going forward. They don't necessarily want to do the defensive work going back towards their own goal, or certainly tactically they're not set up to do so. Which means someone like Bell can quite easily just play the ball up the line to Doughty. Now you might think, surely Dallow's got that covered. But that wasn't the case because of the way which Luton approached the game. Someone like Chong would then run forward, dragging Dallow with him. This now means that Luton have essentially, they've just basically at walking pace played the ball out from the back. And they've moved the ball forward up the pitch, and they've moved the ball into these areas. Now Garnacho's got a lot of ground to cover to try and get into these positions. Kobbie Mainoo's got a lot of ground to cover. Casemiro the same. Casemiro really struggled with covering that ground in this game. Horrendous performance, to be honest, from Casemiro. Should have been off the pitch. He should have been sent off for 2 yellow cards. He really struggled. But the problem was, United's approach was so passive that they ended up having to do quite a lot of work. So because they were high up the pitch, but then passive up the pitch, they're then just constantly running back towards their own goals. So these players are absolutely shattered. And also, when you combine that with Lokonga and Barkley playing for Luton, by the way, two very good players, two very good midfielders who can carry the ball, are press resistant and really good passers, and masters of the second phase, in my opinion. Two great players in the midfield. They should probably play for better clubs, no disrespect to Luton. But they were absolutely brilliant as well in the midfield. And this caused a lot of problems for United because United aren't getting pressure on the ball. The forwards are spending all game basically having to cover a lot of ground tracking back towards their own goal because they haven't pressed high, they've got to run back. The same for Bruno Fernandes, the same for Kobbie Mainoo, the same for Casemiro. And then Luton, progressing the ball very easily, very comfortably, create a front five. Doughty will overlap, Chong will get forward, we've got Woodrow, we've got Morris as well. And then also Ogbene on the other side. They create a front five. And of course the front five up against the back four is always going to cause problems for Manchester United. And they did cause problems. They created chances and got into really good positions. Simply put, they probably just lacked that quality in the final third to really punish United, to really go and take advantage of the tactical situation they found themselves in. Because apart from that, they were really good. Luton moved the ball forward incredibly well. They deserve a lot of credit. But we do have to look at Erik ten Hag and Manchester United and say, tactically, is this sustainable moving forward? Probably not. Because we had an in-possession structure which is reliant on individual brilliance, realistically. Drawing the pressure in, going long, being transitional, making moments happen. The problem with a transitional approach is that you give the other team a lot of the ball. And again, we're playing in a division here in the Premier League where when you give the opposition the ball, they have a lot of quality, they have a lot of ability to hurt you. Pretty sure I was saying the exact same things last weekend after the game against Villa. So it isn't sustainable moving forward. Defensively, a complete lack of intensity. Luton were by far the better side for most of this game, except United had that transitional threat. Ultimately, United got the win. They got all 3 points, and a crucial 3 points. We had to win this game. In terms of if we look at the league table, it's really good. It puts us into a really nice position. 6 weeks ago, we looked in a bad place. The last 6 weeks, including performances, but importantly results like this, have got United back in the mix. We can go get top 4 now. We can go get the top 5. It's absolutely possible. But the style of football, it's questionable. Really, really questionable. So that is sort of honestly, that's my main thoughts on the tactical side of this football match. I don't think there is a lot to break down in terms of little intricacies and things like that. Often we might talk about creating overloads in certain phases or certain rotations you might see. And of course they were present in this game, but I don't think it's the most important factor. I think the most important factor in this game, from a tactical point of view, was the intent of both sides. And I think that's the important word here, the intent. Luton's intent was to play the ball out from the back and move the ball forward through the thirds and sustain attacks in the final third of the pitch. And then out of possession to press really high and aggressively and physically. United's approach, on the other hand, was to be quite direct, quite transitional, and then out of possession be quite passive and sit quite deep and trying to defend the box basically. It's up to you what your preference is. Some people will prefer that Luton approach, some people will prefer that United approach. The good thing for United is that when you do play this sort of game, we do just tend to have the better individuals. You know, Rasmus Højlund produces in moments. Marcus Rashford didn't do it today, but he can do it. Garnacho didn't do it, but can do it. Bruno Fernandes can do it. I understand the approach from Ten Hag. I understand why you would want to transition. I also understand the passive approach to an extent, because if you are passive, you do let Luton carry the ball forward, then you can hit on the transition again. So I think what I should make really clear in this video is that this isn't Ten Hag without a plan, without an idea, without a philosophy. Ten Hag's idea is quite clear in this game. It's just whether that's the brand of football we want moving forward. Who knows? At the end of the day, though, it's a 2-1 win. We absolutely needed the win. A lot of teams have gone to Luton and struggled. Rasmus Højlund is an absolute machine. He can't stop scoring goals. What a player. But Kobbie Mainoo, for me, just a cut above everyone else on the pitch again, compared to those other two central midfielders in particular. Just absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful, and he's ours. He is ours, hopefully for the long term. Let me know, though, your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. I think this might get a bit of a mixed review, this game in general, because on one hand, we looked really good at times in the final third, really threatening. The transition was very, very dangerous. So from that perspective, we attacked well. But then there'll be the other side, people which want more control and things like that. It didn't go well in that sense, by any means. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Did we deserve to win? If we did, why did we deserve to win? And was it a good tactical approach from Ten Hag? And if we didn't deserve to win, do you blame Ten Hag? Do you blame the players? Were Luton just that good? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Apart from that, though, I think we are going to finish there for today. Because, again, it's a bit of a weird game and a bit of a weird one to break down. So that is my tactical analysis of why United beat Luton, but were perhaps a little bit fortunate to do so. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.